Okay, Miss Marlina, welcome to the VIP session of the Wives in Waiting 5-Day Wife Prep Challenge. So this session is all about you, all for you. I want to show ultimate support and make sure that I am providing as much value as you're seeking in this hour, this power hour. So I did want to open up the floor and allow for you to ask any questions that I may be able to help guide and gain clarity with you on the direction that you're looking to go in for success.
So first, I want to say thank you because last week when you were hosting the live with Brother Matthew, that was my very first time hearing another woman literally put into words like the foundation of her marriage to something similar that I have. Like that was my first time ever hearing somebody say financial literacy is at the cornerstone of my marriage, and it took me a while. It actually took me a while to like recognize. I'm like, I really do value financial literacy. I really do value the importance of finances. And then when you said it, I'm like, boom, I'm not the only woman. So thank you for letting me know that I'm not the only woman who actually values things like that, because having that conversation, like just recognizing that and having that conversation with men or your partner, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll be paying attention to, like what his spending habits are, how he values time and things like that. So I thank you for sharing that information with me. What really stuck out to me yesterday was with the self-development issue, piece. I'm currently in a relationship, so it makes me, I'm like, God, I wish I would have known this before I got in this relationship. Like, how am I able to better practice these things while being in a relationship? And the mind piece thing, I asked a question about, how I'm able to juggle me and then being in a relationship. And you clearly stated, like, that's something I've been struggling with, because it's like, okay, Marlina works her 9 to 5, Marlina has a business, and then, like, sometimes I have tunnel vision to a point where it's like, I date somebody, and he'll be like, you're not really spending enough time with me. But then again, I'm like, I'm not the clingy female, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to see you every day, all day. I kind of feel suffered or suffocated. So I'm like, what kind of mindset do I need to be to balance both? Because even though him and I are together, but I'm not married, and I still need to be working on myself while in the relationship. So what advice would you have to someone like me? Because this is my first time ever, like, somebody ever, I don't know, I'm thinking about it, but this is my first time actually hearing somebody say, like, yo, this is what I'm doing. Right. You should practice this. So I'm just curious, like, okay, right now, right here today, I'm in a relationship. So how can I put in practice what you're saying for singleness and getting myself together mentally, and I'm with someone. And then I'm like, if all that you're teaching me, and I begin to think differently, like, if he's not in line, I'm going to leave him. That was my response yesterday. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because I feel like you're having a lot of realizations about your situation, which is the goal, right? Because again, the relationship that we're probably in now, we didn't have the same intentions that we're going to leave with once we're done with this 5-day challenge. Okay. So it's natural, normal. It's actually the goal for us to analyze our current situation to see if it does align with our future, right? It may have aligned with your present, but does it align with your future and your future goals? So that's the first question I'm going to ask you. Does your current relationship, current situation align with your future goals?
You want me to respond? Yeah. I honestly feel like no. That's with all the information that you told me yesterday. I feel like I need to be working more on me than being in a relationship, because I wasn't even thinking about half of what you're saying. Like, I have the material, I have the house, the home, the money, like I bring that to the table, but my mindset things, like me healing well enough to attract a more healed man or someone who goals and skills aligns with me. So to answer your question, I would say no.
Yeah. And though that is a really huge realization that you had about your relationship, allow yourself time to process this information, right? It's actually life changing. It really is. But what we're doing is, so I went to school for psychology. So the methods that I use are part of the build, break, build methodology. Okay. So it's where we're built up in an area and then we're broken. We break it down to the minimum, to the bare, transparent, most vulnerable situation, and then we rebuild very healthily. So that is kind of the situation that we're having with your realizations about your relationship. And this happens once we start being intentional. So whatever tool, whatever resource that God provided for you to be more intentional is so that you have a better outcome in the future. Okay. So the fact that you're realizing this now is not a bad thing at all. It's not, you didn't make a mistake. It's not too late to feel things are changing. Everything is happening right on time. And it's supposed to be happening in a way that's comfortable for you, even though it's a little uncomfortable because we're thinking like, wow, do I even belong in this relationship? However, you still feel good about your decisions because they're decisions made with clarity, right? Versus decisions made with clouded judgment, decisions made without, really thinking thoroughly, right? Decisions made based on what somebody else thinks or says. They're more so geared towards your future. So that's my goal, is really to push your mindset to open up, be clear, remove distractions, and really prepare yourself for the future that you say you want. So the fact that you're saying you're starting to realize maybe this doesn't align with your future, you know you better than anybody else, better than myself, better than your therapist, better than your man at this point. You know yourself. So whatever decision you decide to make, it is one thing I have to really stress is to not feel like you're the bad guy. Don't put yourself in the position to feel like you're the bad guy. And so that's why with this one-on-one session comes the boundaries workshop. Because if you feel like you cannot cut off a situation, leave a situation, or change your mind, or whatever the case is, after you've reevaluated it and seen that it needs to be changed, that means you need to strengthen your boundaries. Okay. You have to get very comfortable with making ourselves a priority. Successful people make themselves priorities. People who are successfully, not just financially, people who are emotionally successful, right? You meet women, you meet people, you meet mentors who are emotionally very stable, right? Their boundaries are great. How did they get there? Because they stopped the guilt, right? The woman guilt of, I have to put my man first. I have to put my relationship first. I have to put my wants first. What you need to do is put your needs first. What things do you need? And when it comes to a relationship, that is a want. There's the reason why I know is because scientifically you don't die without one.
True. That's true.
Let's be real. Right? Once we start to analyze our needs versus our wants, then we can move very clearly. So we really have to admit to ourselves, marriage is a want. Relationships are a want. They are not a need. The moment you think that you need a relationship is the moment you become codependent on one. That's the moment you cannot function, you cannot grow, you cannot evolve without being in a relationship. Your relationships validate you if you have that feeling. Meaning you feel less of a person, you feel less of a woman, less of value, less of worth, because you don't have someone to call your boyfriend or someone to call your mate. That's the real issue. So,
and yesterday you mentioned about singleness, like actually taking the time out to strengthen yourself in your singleness, and it had me thinking like what my dating history was before him. I'm like, okay, did I give myself time to be single? Yeah. What was I doing when I'm single?
I love that because I did the same thing. So actually, right before I met my husband, I decided intentionally that I would be single. This was the first time I had ever been single in my entire life. Okay. From the time I was 15 up until about 23 years old, I had always been in relationships. The most time I think I've ever been not in a relationship was probably like 2 months, 3 months, something like that. Right. And it wasn't really even me basking in singleness. It was transitioning from relationship to leaving that relationship to replacing that relationship. And that
That's me. I think that's my issue too.
that's most women. So don't feel bad about that. Don't feel like anything's wrong with you. That's normal. That's why these conversations are so healthy, right? So for me, I believe in having support systems. And now that you're in this program, I'm a part of your support system. So this support system helps you to think your way through your situation so that you can really understand whether or not you should feel guilty about choosing yourself, whether or not you should do something promotional for my lineup, right? Not always being guilt tripped, because I'm gonna tell you now, when you go into the boundaries workshop, when you have time to listen to it, you'll hear me say, based on research, boundaries upset other people because they don't serve them. Me having a boundary doesn't serve other people. So often people are offended by that. So what they do is they understand if you're a people pleaser, they play on that. And it doesn't mean you're doing this maliciously. It's just people are people. People will people. That's just what it is. So instead of looking for a place to blame, we need to take accountability. We need to take responsibility of what we have control over. I don't have control over somebody taking advantage of me, but I do have control over me being available in that manner. I do have control over my boundaries. I do have control over recognizing these red flags. I can't control whether they'll try it or not, but I can control how prepared and equipped I am to handle and navigate that situation. So sometimes we get in these relationships, we're feeling 50-50. We want to put ourselves first, but we want to prioritize the relationship to be a good woman. However, if I could do it all over again, right, which is kind of like I said, what I did, I became intentional. I realized, listen, my goal is to be married, and not just married to anybody who's willing to marry me. I want to be in a specific type of marriage. I want a specific type of husband. I want to exist as a specific type of wife. I want this specific mission, right? Very detailed about what I desired. Then I had to be real with myself. Does my current situation reflect that? But it wasn't to beat myself up. It wasn't to tell myself you're a loser, you failed, you don't have the juice, you're doing everything wrong. It was so I can transparently open up and get to know myself, address my shortcomings, find that the areas that I needed to work on, right? Understand my strengths, know my weaknesses, give myself an opportunity to heal, really get in tune with me. And a lot of us women, we don't want to experience that. We don't want to go there with ourselves, right? We don't want to stand in that mirror and be completely naked. We don't want to see our flaws. We don't want to see our deep, dark, ugly parts about ourselves. So we keep masking it and covering it with our wants. But as long as we do that, it's like a person who drinks every time they get sad or mad or upset. It's a bad habit, a bad addiction to really putting a Band-Aid over an open wound. So we never really heal. We never really change. We never really grow and develop, right? That's why self-love is number one. Because without this foundation, we cannot stack other things on top of it. So again, analyze your situation and see, does this look or contribute, or is this a part of my future? If not, then it's time to start planning your exit strategy. Okay? An exit strategy is literally how you're going to move out of your situation into the situation that you feel better suits you. If that situation is singleness, right, which would be, in my case, that would be if I were in your shoes, that would be my direction. Only because I know a couple things. I know it's not easy to break up. I know it's not easy to separate, leave a relationship. I understand that. But when I was going through this, I had to realize, am I going to keep masking my feelings with this temporary pleasure, or am I going to work on my future?
Yeah,
Am I going to make the investment that's necessary to have a better future?
absolutely.
at that time, I had, a relationship, a situationship rather, because I was kind of already feeling like, dang, I want to put myself first, but he's in the way, right? You're in the way, sir. This relationship is in the way. I'm really trying to go places and do things. And I can't really do that with you here because you're requiring my attention. You're requiring my time. This relationship is requiring my time. So realistically, I cannot put myself as a priority. So I started to can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I accidentally muted myself.
Oh, you're good. I just want to make sure we're good.
No, I was hearing you because I feel the very same way with just hearing you speak. It just makes me reflect upon myself. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. In a good way, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm like, that's me.
You have all the, I'm telling you, no matter who, what, where, when, why, we all have the same, a similar situation. So I started to go from that and I wanted to transition to plan my exit strategy. And the first part about my exit strategy was realizing it doesn't make me a bad person to put myself first. So the reason why I want to do this is because I cannot show up in this relationship wholeheartedly, and that's not fair to either one of us. It's not fair. I don't want to be here. I don't act like I want to be here, right? And you suffer from that on the other end, right? Although it feels good, there's benefits to being in a relationship. It's not conducive to my future. It's just slowing down my process. So I knew that my future required an investment for me, right? And that was a part of my investment. So I started the exit strategy by allowing him to understand I think that it's better if we become friends, if we just remain friends, if we stay in that situation, because I really want to focus on myself. I'll give you a minute. I know you're in the middle of something.
I'm just checking in. I'm sorry, Sister Erica. Do you need anything? I think you may need my insurance card. Simmons.
I'm gonna mute you just, because it's recorded. Intermission, guys.
Okay, I'm all yours, Sister Erica.
So, I had to get comfortable with knowing that my boundary was going to inconvenience my partner.
So the exit strategy, I've been thinking about that literally myself because I'm like, I think about my future often. I'm not a very naive person.
Yeah.
I more so struggle with setting my boundaries
Yeah.
and communicating them. And I'm like, if you're together, then I don't want to hurt you. But like you said, to communicate your strategy is not to hurt you.
Right.
And I just begin to feel bad, but my best friend reminds me all the time about the importance of communicating I guess, like, I've been thinking about this for a while. So I'm like, how could I say this to him without hurting his feelings? Because where I'm going, I can't force somebody to want to go with me. They have to make the decision to like do it on their own. And I don't want to feel like I'm forcing somebody to meet my future goals with me.
So just to hear you say that is just like, okay, that exit strategy. How
Part of
can I have this conversation?
Yes. So a part of it, first thing, right? For me, difficult situations require you to really think about it, write some key things down, right? Because if you're the kind of person who kind of gets a little emotional or a little frustrated sometimes when you're trying to convey something important, do the things that support you. For me, I can get emotional sometimes when I have a difficult topic. So I write down my points so that I can stay on topic. I don't care how that looks or how that feels for someone else. I need to get this point out, right? So I'm going to write it down. Another thing that I like to do with a support partner, your friend, your best friend, myself, a mentor, somebody that you trust and value, role play. That way, that person can help you to understand what kind of response you might get, depending on, if they know your man or, whatever the case is, they can present some possible rebuttals that might come from them. And you can then decide how you're going to navigate the situation, right? But the first things first is really sitting with yourself and making the decision. Because when I'm presenting this opportunity or presenting this proposal to the person that I'm breaking off or breaking up or setting a boundary with, I want to go in firm. Hey, I've already thought about this. There's really nothing, in other words, there's really nothing you can say or do to change my mind. Because we can't go into something thinking that that person is going to react and do exactly what's convenient for us either. They may cry, they may throw a fit, they may feel hurt, they may feel broken. It's not that we don't care, it's just we have to decide what's more important. Is your current feelings right now more important than where I see myself in the future that I feel like this situation is holding me back from? At the end of the day, if I don't like what's going on over here, my attitude is going to reflect that. My treatment is going to reflect that. My the way I show up in the relationship is going to reflect that. This person will overcome, heal from whatever they may feel or whatever they may have against me for doing what I felt was necessary. Okay, they will overcome. So it is not your responsibility to, and again, when you watch the boundaries workshop, you'll hear it come up. We put a heavy emphasis on how somebody else is going to survive based on our boundary. But your decisions should not heavily affect somebody to the point where they cannot function. If that's the case, unless it is your child, okay, unless it is your child, there is no reason why that person should be so heavily impacted by a decision that you make unless they're unhealthy, toxic, dependent. Think about it. Should anything that you do, right? This is we see this all the time, for example, at work. You're a vital part of your work company. But if you leave tomorrow, does the company stop? No. It's the same situation, right? That partner, that person, that might not be their preference. That might not be convenient for them, but it does not cause any physical harm to them because you decided that you're going to make a different decision that benefits you. So we cannot make ourselves so important that any decision I make is going to change that person's life. That shouldn't be the case. If so, there are underlying issues. There really are, right? So that's the first thing, is just realizing that you're setting a boundary that's healthy. Okay. Thinking about it, making your decision very clear before you present it to that person. Because again, if you go in unclear about your decision, don't think that person's not going to sway you to go in the way that benefits them. Okay. People will always be people, and that's just how it is, right? Next, again, like I said, role play and practice. And then after that, be okay with the consequences. Be okay with the consequences. The consequences are he may feel away, right? The only time it should be a huge concern is if there is some kind of abusive situation where your exit strategy needs to be a little more thorough. Okay. And if that's the case, please tell me privately offline and I will help you. Yeah. Okay. Other than that, be okay with the consequences. The consequences of, I'm going to be single. I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to have to be responsible in my singleness. That person's going to, may feel away. I might be looked at as a bad guy. The way he tells the story may not make me look like the best person. But again, none of that is going to affect you where you cannot function or make it through or get to your next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I'm over this shit. I don't have nothing to say. I'm just shaking my head like, yeah.
And again, the only reason why I know is because I've been through it myself. I had to process this, and the boundaries workshop is going to help you get through this situation. So I really, really, really want you to take the boundaries workshop before you meet with your man. Please, please, because it talks all about this. That's all you're doing is setting a boundary. That's it. You're establishing, this is how I'm going to navigate. This is how I'm going to start doing things in my life. I'm putting me first today from here on out. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Last name more.
I got it. Okay. All right.
Right?
I thank you for telling me that, because I don't really look at it that way. But my happiness, this is my life, and my happiness should be at the forefront of everything.
Yeah, nobody's gonna come to you and say, hey, you know what? You've done so much for me in my life. I think I'm done now. I think you're good. You can go ahead and just relax and not do anything for me anymore. No one's gonna do that. That's our responsibility. That's our job. Even as a married woman, I encourage wives to also have boundaries. Because if we don't have boundaries, we're constantly giving, constantly putting ourselves last. We're getting the leftover energy, the leftover thought process and brain work and all of that. We get everything last. How can I function like that? I cannot. Then that again affects how I show up in my relationship. Sometimes, of course, we have wife guilt or mom guilt, right? Where that's just the mindset of that person. I have to put that person and their needs before everything else, before myself. And so we get caught up in that pattern of thinking that's what's right. And then we feel depleted. We feel like we have nothing to give. We feel like used and abused and just nothing left for ourselves. But whose responsibility is that? Yeah. But who do we blame?
I know for me, I don't want to say I put my happiness in other people's hands.
Oh yeah,
but in a sense, I do.
Yeah, we do all the time. And that's why this, I like to say, I said it on my Instagram last night, this 5-day challenge is less about the man and more about the plan. How are we going to become our best self? And I'm telling you, sis, part of that process is just learning how to put you first. You do not need to feel guilty about doing that. That is part of your success plan. Think about it. If people who are successful didn't take their time to put effort and energy into what they desire to do, how could they possibly be successful? Right? Taraji
That's very true.
Taraji, right? She tells a story about how she moved down to LA with $600, starving actress, right? Who was she putting first in that situation? Her mom? Her man? Her child? She had a son at that time. She had a son at that time.
So that leaves me, because that makes me feel better, because I don't have a son. I don't have any children. I don't have anybody in which my decisions have to be contingent upon.
So before that happens, get in the habit of doing you first. This is your time. This is your opportunity. This may never come again. You may never be this young, this vibrant, this witty, this energetic, this healthy. You may never have that time and space again. And what can you do? You don't want to look back and say, what did I do with that time? I'll use it to please men. Use it to serve other people. Not that serving other people is not good, but my point is, this is your opportunity to understand the importance of putting you first so that you can build yourself up so much that you are effortlessly pouring into other people. When I changed my mindset about that, I was able to be a better friend, better wife. But because guess what? If I'm feeling depleted, oh, that's my responsibility. Let me go back to the drawing boards. Let me figure out where I overexerted myself and let me set a boundary. right? Not my husband's responsibility, not my mom's responsibility, not my sisters, my friends, none of their responsibilities to set boundaries that promote my mental health. We got to come out of that. We're taught that way. We're given that from the world, right? Why do you think the world tells us that? To benefit themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why. But successful people do not adapt that mindset. We don't. We don't. It doesn't mean, but these same successful people who put themselves first, they take care of their mothers. They are financially stable. They're able to do for their family. Right? Why? Because they pour and take care of themselves first. So that is your number one mission. That is your number one mission. It doesn't mean evilly, maliciously, nastily, right? Put people on the back burner. But it's just understanding that you are your biggest priority right now. And God allowed for your life to be like that so that you can maximize your time, your energy, everything. You need to maximize that, to focus on what's important, what's vital for Marlena. Okay, trust me, life will always give you obstacles. You will always have time and situations that are going to make you put other things first. Family members getting sick out of nowhere, somebody needing to move in your place, right? A situation where you need to help or be present, a situation that might happen to you personally. There's always going to be an opportunity for you not to put yourself first. So this time really is so precious. It really is, right? And a part of putting yourself first is your spiritual life, right? So you're already taking that journey of your spiritual life, but that's because it's part of your self-development. It is. It's part of you progressing and going and leading towards the way that's beneficial to you. And then what do we even teach in church, right? Once you understand the value of salvation, you then help somebody else. So once you understand the value of healing, of becoming, of doing, promoting Marlena, then what can you do for other people?
Help others.
You can really help them. You can really help them. But it starts with helping self first. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes.
Helping myself and not feeling bad about it.
Yes. Yes.
I needed to hear this.
Of course.
So what I took away most from this was helping others without feeling bad about it, and communicating or thinking of my exit strategy and preparing myself of his response, or like try to guilt trip me or make me feel bad, paint me to be the bad person. At the end of the day, my boundaries are for me, not for other people. And that's important.
You know what?
I keep saying that because the more I say it, the more I understand it.
Which part?
Like setting your boundaries first.
Oh, yeah.
And setting your boundaries first doesn't, because I won't say I'm a people pleaser, but I'll give unto others.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want people to give unto me and they don't. Or sometimes I'm just a giver in a sense where, like, eventually you pour into others, but eventually you want somebody to pour into you. Yeah. But I'm pouring and I barely have anything to pour from. So I get it. That's more so why I'm saying that.
Yeah. And that's a lot of that comes from just having expectations, right? Because I'm giving, I'm expecting that to be reciprocated. But that's why boundaries are important, because it makes you check in with yourself and it makes you say, what is my motive? What is the reason why I'm doing this? Am I doing this because I literally can care less about the return? Or am I doing this because I'm trying to make an investment to get that same energy or that same thing reciprocated? Not that it's bad, but it's the fact that if you set expectations, most times you'll be disappointed or let down. So the best thing is to really know your intentions when you're doing things and to communicate them. Hey, I'm going to be picking you up every day from, for work. No problem, girl, no problem. Right? But in the back of your mind, this lady brings food from home every single day and you want some. You're tired of spending your $20 a week or $20 a day on lunch. And so what we do is, oh, since I offered her a ride, she should already know to bring me some food out. She should already know to offer me this food. Why isn't she reciprocating? That's an expectation. Instead of being upfront and real and really understanding what you desire. Hey, you know what? I think it would be great if I can pick you up every day since you need a ride. And then in exchange, you can pack lunch for both of us. Right? Completely different outcomes. Completely different outcomes. But you gain that momentum to be that transparent, to be that open and honest and better at communicating. When you do that with yourself, you haven't been honest to you. You've just been going through the motions. So of course it's difficult when you're going to face somebody else because you haven't really sat with you, communicated to you, understood things about you, taken them, accepted them, understood them. So now when you go present yourself to someone else, you're terrified. They may pull your card. They're going to pull a card on something you don't have a lot of experience with. But because they're on the opposite side, they've had a chance to observe you and analyze you. But you haven't done that for yourself. So what that does is it leaves you vulnerable. It leaves you out in the open. It doesn't protect you at all. It doesn't mean with boundaries you should become guarded, but you should be aware. You should be aware. And the biggest part of having self-awareness is being able to self-reflect, being able to be honest with yourself and setting boundaries. It's true, right? And again, I know because I did it first. Right? So as soon as I started to really, and then I had the realization that it didn't make me a bad person to leave that man. It made me a bad person to stay with him for 5 years, knowing that for 3 of them, I wasn't going to be there soon. That's what made me, that part was worse than me leaving. Me leaving was me being honest, me being respectful, me being considerate. That's what me leaving actually represented. Me staying represented weakness, dishonesty, right? Disrespect. Those are the things. So when I realized that, I was like, wow, goodness, I should have done this sooner, right? And right after that situation, again, I started to become very clear on who I am, what my goals are, what I see in my future, all of that stuff. So even what I started to attract was way different. Way different. What I started to attract looked much more in alignment with my future because I gave myself time. And it didn't even take long, you know. Of course, I can't guarantee how long it's going to take anybody. We're all different. But it didn't even take long. I was like, even to the point where, you know, when I met my husband, I was like, okay, hold on, I need a minute. I'm still in my, I'm enjoying my single phase right now. I don't really know if I'm not dating yet. We can be friends, right? But I was starting to enjoy my single self. Why? Because I started, and we're going to talk about this in the next class, I started to focus on all of my goals, my personal goals, my financial goals, my spiritual goals, all of my goals. I was like, oh, I have so much to do that I really don't have time for the man. Why? Because I'm not willing to put myself on the back burner anymore. Because if I keep doing that, I'll never reach my goals. I'll never reach them because I got to take time to act like wifey to you, right? I got to take time to entertain this relationship. I got to take time to do all of it. But why? Because it's a commitment. I committed to it. So I got to do my part. But when I decided, listen, I don't have time for that right now because I have so many other things, that was key. So I prepared myself so that when the opportunity for the right man to come along came, it was so easy. It was seamless. I already knew who I was. I already knew what I wanted. I already knew all those details about myself. So I was able to vet quickly. Oh, no, thank you. Yeah, have a nice day. I didn't have the feeling of, what if that was my dream man? Or what if, whatever is going to happen, it will happen anyway. So don't have that feeling that if you let this go or if you break it off or whatever the case is, which it sounds like that's what your plan is, don't have the feeling that you are messing up your future. Whether it happened today or in 10 years, it was going to happen. It was. It was. And that's just how fate works. That's how it works. If I would have stayed in that situation thinking of the what ifs, I would have never been available for the man that I was supposed to actually be with. Right? That situation would have continued to linger and go on way too long. But when I cut it off, I started my healing journey. I started my healing process. I started to become whole. So when I got into this relationship that led to my marriage, I didn't have those feelings and those thoughts in the back of my mind that this is distracting. This is taken away from me. This is not, I'm not in a position to serve this. I cannot make a commitment right now. I was exactly where I needed to be. It was only up from there. I understood my balance. I understood my capacity. I understood all of that, which let me know what kind of man do I want to exist with? Right? And so all of that made my situation very, very clear and seamless. So that is why we started with what we started with yesterday. And we had this kind of opportunity to sit and really break down what we desire so we can actually get that, right? We can manifest it. We got to know what it looks like, what it feels like. We got to get ready for that. Are you guys cutting me off? It's men.
Okay. Well, I know we're about to get ready for the 6 o'clock call, but yeah, I just want you to know.
Restroom and everything like that.
I just want you to know you really got my mind thinking to a point where I'm like, oh, I got some things I need to think about tonight. So I will be spending my time doing that.
So good. That's exactly the that is how you get to your goal. Understanding where you need to be and what is the plan to get there.
Yeah. Right. All right. Thank you, Sister Erica. I really needed this.
I'm proud of you. Everything you're doing is great. You're fantastic. You're right where you need to be.
Oh, yes. I'm excited.
All right. Well, I'll see you in class and we'll have a discussion tomorrow. So think of some more questions that you might want to ask or some more topics you want to discuss so we can have this time again. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.